Hi you guys, we're back with my Crypto 101 series and we're going over Hedera / HBAR today. So I know yesterday I went over Hedera as far as its consensus mechanism, which is going to be known as hash graph, but today we're going to be actually going over the coin HBAR itself. We're going to skip through the consensus mechanism because I talked about that already, but today we're going to be talking about the utility, the companies and enterprises that have already adopted it, the future updates to the coin, and so much more. But before we get started, welcome back to Getting Digital with Deja. Today's video is not going to be very long because I went over a lot already in my previous video when I talked about the consensus mechanism, as I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we'll be talking about today, and then I'll go into a deeper dive on each specific topic. So HBAR uses hash graph technology, offering faster and more energy efficient consensus than traditional blockchains. The governance model involves a council of global enterprises, enhancing trust and stability for businesses. HBAR serves multiple functions, including transaction fees, powered dApps, staking for security, and governance participation. Innovative use cases include micropayments, direct artist payments, and secure supply chain management. So let's go over the first concept that I mentioned, which is going to be the hash graph consensus mechanism. So this hash graph consensus mechanism allows the network to transact 10,000 transactions per second, okay? 10,000 transactions per second for less than a cent in transaction fees. And it achieves finality within 3 to 5 seconds. So basically, instantly, these transactions are confirmed. So it's faster and more energy efficient than the traditional blockchain ecosystem, okay? So it's not blockchain. HBAR does not operate technically on blockchain. It has its own type of specific specialized ledger, which is going to be created and optimized by the hash graph consensus mechanism. It is considered an alternative to the blockchain system. It's not necessarily here to replace the blockchain system, but it is used as an alternative. But the only thing about this hash graph type of network is that the only crypto coin that uses it is going to be HBAR. So potentially it could be adopted by future crypto coins in the future, but as of right now, HBAR is the only cryptocurrency in the market that uses this type of consensus mechanism. So now let's get into the part when I was talking about the different enterprises and the governance of the network. Most crypto rely on decentralized, often anonymous governance. Hedera is governed by a council of leading global enterprises. Companies like IBM, LG, Boeing, Google each operate nodes and guide the project's direction. So now let's get into very deep detail about this because I thought this was very amazing the way that they do this. So the governance council is capped at 39 members, and these members are global enterprises and companies and businesses like LG, Boeing, FedEx. They also have like banks and things like that are included on these members, and these members are all responsible for controlling and governing the protocol. Each member has one vote on all protocol and business decisions. It doesn't matter how big the company is, and it doesn't matter how much HBAR they have staked. They each have one vote to vote on anything happening with the protocol or any business decisions that are going to be made through the network. Each member typically serves 3-year terms, and with those 3-year terms, you can only have 2 consecutive terms, okay? So it's just like the President of the United States, you guys. This is why this is so amazing. So imagine, the President of the United States, they can only serve for 4 years and then they have to do another term, but they're only allotted 2 terms, okay? So in reality, they're only allotted being a part or a member of the government for about 8 years. And that's the same thing for this. They're allotted being members for about 6 years. And when I say members, I mean people who have influence on the protocols and everything happening within the network. And each council member is responsible and has the requirement of operating a consensus node, which is going to be validating transactions and keeping the integrity of the network. So some of the key responsibilities of this council is going to be, they're going to be structuring transaction fees, controlling and managing the 50 billion HBAR supply, because it's a 50 billion max supply of HBAR. They're going to be introducing policies that will help the network to grow. And then they're in charge of the treasury of the HBAR tokens. And also one thing that's very important is they're going to be approving any proposals or any amendments and upgrades to the HBAR network. And all those upgrades and proposals are going to be given to them through HIP, which is known as Hedera Improvement Proposals. And HIP is just a fancy word for the development community of HBAR. Now, everything that this council does is going to be transparent and placed onto the Hedera network. So, for example, when they have these meetings, everything is going to be essentially recorded and placed onto the Hedera network. It's going to be hashed on the network so that it's available for everyone to see and that it's tamper-proof. So nothing bad can come from this. So there's nobody who can do any malicious activity or say that the council said this when they really didn't say this, because it's all going to be hashed and placed onto the Hedera network. And this is known as the council meeting minutes. Okay, so every minute of the meeting is going to be placed onto the Hedera network for the entire Hedera community to be able to see. And as of 2026, there are 31 active members spreading across 6 continents. Okay, so that is a lot. And remember, some of these members are huge companies. Huge companies are adopting this HBAR type of network, this HBAR ecosystem. So this is why I thought it was imperative to include in my crypto series. And I do want to add that one of the founding members who actually jumped on board before the launch of HBAR is going to be IBM. Now, if you know anything about technology, you know that that is big. For it to be a founding member, that is huge, okay? Founding member means that they see a lot of potential inside of this coin, inside of this network. So if something as big as IBM sends a lot of potential before it even launched, you know that it's a big deal. But not only these big companies and enterprises are allotted governance on the network, also any HBAR holders are allotted governance over future on-chain operations. So essentially that means if you hold any HBAR, you can be able to vote and have a say-so on what's going on the network in the future. So when it started off, you weren't necessarily able to do that, but now you definitely are able to do that. And it's spreading the transparency and the governance of the network in general. So it's not just in the hands of these big enterprises and these companies, it's also in the hands of the holders, which is what crypto is supposed to be in general. The power is supposed to be with the holder. It's not supposed to be with the banks. It's not supposed to be with third parties and everything. It's essentially created to have the power within the holder. So HBAR is going to be the native currency of Hedera, and it does all the things that all the other native currencies done that I've mentioned earlier and all of the other cryptos that I've talked about, which includes staking, and it includes paying for all transactions on there, and it includes creating dApps and just anything needed to do on the network you're going to be paying in the form of HBAR because that is its native currency. And of course, just like with every other crypto network that I've talked about, when you stake the HBAR, you earn rewards for staking it because essentially you are contributing to the integrity and the security of the network. So let's talk about some of the use cases for the Hedera platform in general. So one of the major use cases is going to be for micro payments. Because the transaction fees for HBAR is so super low, it makes sense to do micro payments on this platform. So micro payments are just payments, financial payments for financial institutions and things like that online that are between $1 to $10. So if you want to make a payment to someone that's between $1 to $10, you can do it on the HBAR ecosystem without paying basically anything because you're paying less than a cent for these transaction fees. It's also going to be used for direct artist payments. So when I say that, I mean exactly what I mean. Direct artist payments. So platforms, they are able to pay these artists from their streaming royalties directly and automatically to the artists without having to pay a lot of transaction fees or even having to wait a long time to be able to get those payments to them. It's done automatically. So thinking when you're streaming on Spotify and things like that, you're streaming somebody's music, and every time you stream somebody's music, they get paid what they call royalties. And those royalties are going straight to the artist, but HBAR makes it to where they go straight to the artist automatically because the time is just cut. There's no time in between. And then also on top of that, there's no transaction fees essentially. They're very low. So it's like no transaction fees are being taken from the artist or from the network or the platform that's being streaming this type of music and things like that. So essentially there's no intermediary fees. There's no third party that's going to be taking a chunk of these royalties because they are essentially bridging together the Spotify and the artist, you know? It's not like that. So it's automatic and straight to the artist. It's also used for supply chain management. So large enterprises and companies are going to be using the HBAR ecosystem to be able to keep records of everything that is going on with their supply chain. So some examples of the companies that actually use this HBAR ecosystem and what they use it for is going to be FedEx. FedEx uses it to track its supply chain, keep the records of everything going on within its supply chain, and track the logistics of the company and its movements. Standard Bank and many other major institutions use it to be able to make cross-border payments. So just like XRP or XDC allows you to make cross-border payments for less than a cent, HBAR allows you to do the same exact thing. Safe Health Systems uses the HBAR ecosystem to be able to encrypt and record keep medical data. And Nvidia, yes, I said Nvidia uses the HBAR ecosystem, okay? Nvidia uses it to be able to create certificates of trust for AI computations. So that's not even the biggest thing on this HBAR ecosystem, okay? In my opinion, the biggest thing is going to be the Reserve of Australia, which is going to be the Bank of Australia essentially piloting a program for their CBDCs, which is going to be central banking digital currencies on the HBAR network. I said it. I told y'all CBDCs are taking over the world. Like, these different countries are literally piloting it right now to see how it works, what improvements they can make, and to have it more secure and convenient for its users. Now, every single country is literally doing it. I know they said the United States banned it and it was like, no, we're not going to do it. But I promise you, mark my words, the United States will have a CBDC by 2030. I promise you. China's already piloting it. Africa's already piloting it. Sweden, all these different countries are already piloting CBDCs, and they're choosing which networks they want to do it on because they can do it on whatever network they want to do it on, okay? Now, Australia is choosing to do it on the HBAR network. That speaks volumes for a coin that's not even in the top 10 cryptocurrencies in the world. For the Bank of Australia to be doing this, for the Reserve of Australia to be doing this, that is major. That means that they see potential that we as investors don't necessarily see yet. But if you watched my previous video that I did on ISO 22 and CBDCs, you know that HBAR is ISO 22 compliant. So that just means that it can actually be implemented with these financial institutions to build their own financial framework. So ISO 22 is just basically a platform for countries and institutions to be able to build their own financial frameworks, okay? They give you the tools. They say, here, you can have this data and things like that and do what you want to do with it. Now, it's a very dangerous game because they can do good with it. They can do bad with it. But not all coins are ISO 22 compliant. One major coin that is not ISO 22 compliant is going to be Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin is not ISO 22 compliant. Now, what's even crazier is HBAR's price. HBAR right now is priced for less than a cent. Less than 1 cent, you guys. So for $1, you can get 100 shares or 100 tokens of HBAR. Now, it's not always going to be like that, y'all. When crypto really pops off and everything like that, and we really transition all the way to a digital type of style of government, I'm telling you, HBAR is not going to be priced at that level. Now, some of the main reasons why the price of HBAR currently is so low is because, first of all, it's relatively new. It was launched in 2019. I know 2019 seems like forever ago, but we have other cryptocurrency coins that were launched in 2008, 2012, things like that. So they have a lot of experience and adoption already within the market. Now, another reason why the price is low is because it's made for bigger enterprises and companies and institutions. It's not really made for the everyday person and for us to be spending as investors, okay? So that's why it's really targeting these enterprises in these major institutions. It's not targeting the everyday person. And as retail investors, we're not really having that much speculation about HBAR and trading and investing inside of HBAR because we don't really use it. We don't really have any use cases for it in our everyday lives or to be able to develop things and stuff like that because we can use all these other cryptocurrencies that have been around way longer to do that. So essentially, that is another reason why the price is so low. Another reason why the price is so low is because the growth of the price is directly correlated and influenced by who adopts it. And when I say that, I mean by which companies and enterprises adopt it. It's not by what we think it should be or how we want to trade it or anything like that. It's really strictly based on these enterprises. Which brings me into my next point. A lot of companies and enterprises do partner with HBAR, but the majority partner with other blockchain systems, okay? So like I said, this HBAR has a different type of consensus mechanism where it uses Hashgraph, which is something different from blockchain. And a lot of developers and institutions don't exactly know what that is because they're just now finding out what blockchain is. So now you're introducing something that's totally new and that's not adopted by the masses. They're generally going to go to something that already has a lot of traction and adoption within the ecosystem. And then HBAR is kind of left like behind. Now, the main reason, in my opinion, why I think the price is so low is because a lot of retail investors are against the governance of the network, which is why it has evolved a lot, but let's get into it, what I mean. So, the network, essentially, like I told you, is these big institutions in these companies that are known as council members that are voting on all the protocols and all the updates and everything happening on the network. It's actually done by these big companies. And all these big companies are also nodes on the network as well, where they are essentially validating transactions and things like that. So as you can see, it kind of takes away from the decentralized factors of cryptocurrency. And that's not good. When you have all these major companies and things in charge of the network and what's going on with the network, it really does look more so like centralized instead of decentralized. And the whole point of crypto is decentralization. So when you have this coin and this network that is not going to be decentralized in general, a lot of investors are not going to invest into it because that is not what crypto stands for, and that is not the role of crypto in the world. Now, HBAR has noticed this, okay, which is why they have created more system upgrades to make it to where HBAR holders, no matter if you're an institution or just a regular retail investor, can be able to vote on anything happening on chain, okay? So that means now you're able to vote on it for anything happening in the future, but you were not able to vote on it for anything that has already happened in the past or that's already in progress. So there was a lot of evolution just in them doing that to make it a little bit more decentralized. But as of right now, investors are still not feeling the centralized aspects of this network. Now, I was just stating all of that information to tell you why the coin was low. That was not meant for you to be like, oh, I'm not going to invest in it because Deja said this and this is not about the coin. No, I'm just telling you why the price is low. And plus, I gave you all the great pointers on information about the coin, its consensus mechanism, and everything like that. You choose what you want to do with that information. Again, this channel is not financial advice. I'm not trying to get you to invest inside of anything or like that. I'm just allowing you to get some really good information about it, which nobody else is really doing. Like, I was looking it up. No one's talking about Hashgraph and all these deep details on YouTube, okay? If I'm wrong, please let me know, but I'm really not seeing that information on YouTube. So I'm just giving you this information and you can do what you want with this information. I am just the messenger, okay, you guys? But with all that said, that is the end of everything for HBAR. We have completely did a great overview of HBAR and its consensus mechanism, and I will be back tomorrow with another video with another coin. Okay, you guys, we're keeping it nice and consistent. Now, before I go, I wanted to remind you that pretty girls can do crypto too. Toodles.